Welcome to The Truth Is.
I'm happy to be here.
I'm glad you're here. Can we start a little bit at the beginning? What's something about how you grew up that helps us understand who you are today?
So I was born in Liverpool
Mm-hmm.
in the 1970s. Very young parents, poverty. And we basically followed my dad's education around England, and then we immigrated to this country when I was 12. And because we were moving so often, I think I unconsciously recognized that it was safer to mimic, to adapt, and to kind of disappear than to be the one that was different, right? It's just tribalism. And so moving from town to town, city to city, country to country, I would shift my accent, shift my expressions, my behavior. I think it also attuned me to be almost like a detective of behavior so that I could blend in. And so I found myself quite often, like, oh, this is how I carry my bag. This is how I drink from the water fountain. This is how I look at teachers. This is how I should move in the playground. And so it was acting school, but I was very conscious of it, right? Recognizing, oh, there's a me behind this act, especially with voice.
Yeah.
So shifting my my accent with each place that we live. And so I think it's just been something intrinsic to my survival. And then later on recognizing, oh, this is also a craft.
At what point in your life did you discover it as a craft? Because actually, there's a trend on my podcast that I'm hearing now. Lawyer turned creative, or someone in the legal profession turned creative, which I know is also true for you, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I was on track to go to law school at one point. But I was also writing and dabbling in plays and short film, and I was learning camera and production. And so there was a passion, but then there was that practical side of life, and we go to school so that we can then get a profession. And there's no map for being an artist. There's no corporate ladder. There's no structure of network or resources either, really. It's you're out on your own. And so I think I made an independent film in Boston in 2000, I believe. And that went on the festival circuit, and then that eventually brought me out to LA. And between the making of that film and then being introduced to Sandra Seacat and some of the other places that I was studying, it began to hit me that, oh, I'm very comfortable taking on roles and characters because I've always been doing that. And I think that was when I began to realize, okay, well then in this craft, how much do you expose of yourself? What's that mercurial mixture where, it's a craft, but it's also art, but it's also exposing. And that kind of, I was always more interested in, I think, the psychology and I guess the philosophy of how we do what we do. Yeah.
What was it that brought you to, I'm going to actually teach this, or I have my own take on this? What was that part of the journey?
It found me. I didn't find it. Like 20 years ago, I wasn't like, oh, I want to be an acting coach and a teacher. In fact, I had the adverse of that. Like when I first got here, the camera assistant from my film in Boston was out here, and she was working as an assistant for Sandra Seacat, and she was like, hey, there's this really renowned acting coach that used to be at the studio, and she's out here. She does dream work, and I think my response was, it's all bullshit. Only because of my life experience in playing characters, right? And she was like, just come. She's like, there's amazing actors, there's a lot of experience, like this is a good way to get in LA. And I met with Sandra, and she saw right through it. She was like, you're a natural hider. And it kind of like hit me, and I was like, like to be exposed without revealing. That was, and then something clicked in me where I was like, oh, if I'm to do this, I have to humble myself and learn. Yeah.
Do you know what's funny? That just made me think of the first time I walked in one of your classes. Because I moved to LA and I told you I had a friend that I acted with in the Bay who was like, take the Markland Studio. And I signed up for Unexpressed Self probably in January of 2023. And I remember, my beloved acting circles in SF were never more than probably 14 or 15 people.
Right.
And I remember walking into the theater and like immediately defenses up and judging it. I remember being like, oh, he's like LA. Like I had a thing about what is an LA actor. Yeah. And then I had a thing about that, oh, you didn't stand up and be like, welcome to the class. This is the class.
Yeah.
Like I was in the back and you were like, all right, who's up? And I was like, what do you mean? like the critic in me was loud. And it was I'm aware it was from like, I'm not prepared. And it's so interesting to look back and see that in me. I was like, I totally had a judgment around it.
Yeah.
And it's so crazy to think what has opened up in the 3 years since that.
Yeah, I still think I have my inherited blue collar working class roots in that I do just see it as work.
Yeah.
And I think maybe that's why even like the celebrity side of things, who cares? Like, at the end of the day, it's a craft, right? There's an artistic side to it. But at the end of the day, you have to have tools and you have to know how to use those tools. And get up and let's work. I don't like talking about it.
Yeah.
Even though I'm here right now, I much prefer the doing and learning because part of my approach to everything also is like I need to be curious.
Yeah.
And I need to be, again, humbled from a place of I'm going to learn something here.
Yeah.
Right.
So in leading up to this conversation, it invited me to reflect on all the classes I've taken with you. And there's certainly a common thread, I feel. And though I would love to ask you, how do you describe what you do and like what the studio you've created is hoping to do? Even though you just said you don't like to talk about it.
It's now that we talked about like where it came from for me, I think that's kind of the backbone of it, which is let's begin to recognize who you are, what your identity is, why was it constructed the way that it was, and then what are you hiding? What's the truth of who you are behind this identity?
Yeah.
Right? Because in a way we are performing,
Yeah.
Even when we feel authentic, given our situation, there's a performance going on. And so I like to think of each class as holding up a mirror at a different angle to be like, okay, well, let's look at your childhood, or let's look at the archetypes of your mom and your dad, or let's look at your belief system and how did you get to that? The unexpressed self is a great one because it's like, okay, well, you had parts of yourself that fractured or no longer served the identity that you wanted to have.
Yeah.
But let's look back at them because maybe if we were to reintegrate them, now with the tools that you have, it could actually be a more holistic version of yourself.
Totally.
So I guess that part of my mission is someone to become self-actualized, right? Living closer to their authentic self without such a strong identity. And then there is more of the emotional journey of the work too, which is I feel like I'm there to help people build like impulse trusting, intuition building, reconnecting you to the animal that to me is always much more interesting to watch than anything that's a brain construct. Like if you've thought about it, then you're gonna be trying to follow this pattern of what you imagine. Whereas your impulse doesn't have that. Like it's really in and of the moment. So it's unpredictable. And if you are a more authentic version of yourself and you're trusting your animal instincts, then we are riveted because we're watching an animal.
Well, I love that you brought up animal because I was kind of cataloging some of the most unexpected things I've done in your classes, and you just reminded me of one, which was like in a class called Sexy or something. I did a scene as a gorilla.
I remember.
And And that's a cool example because I signed up for a sexy class because it's uncomfortable for me to
Right.
think about being
Sure.
sexy or what sexy means to
Yeah.
me. And I love my Catholic upbringing, but there's an internalized modesty, if you will. And then I did the scene the first week. It's like a Diane Lane scene. And I like wore the dress and heels and the trench coat, like trying to be sexy like Diane Lane. And then the miraculous like surprise was doing it as a gorilla. I was like more in my body and instinctual, and whether it looked like it or not, felt more sexy.
Yeah, 100%.
It's trippy.
A lot of it is finding ways to enable permission, right? And so if Catherine can't offer herself permission to get past certain sexual, censorship that you've given yourself,
Yeah.
then be a gorilla, because you have no censorship around being a gorilla.
Yeah.
And
it removes the idea of sexy, like intellectually.
yeah, but also it places you in your body. And when someone's really accepting of their body and allow it to move, and you see the emotions start to seep out, it is sexy. Like, we're an animal, and I think that the closer we are to being the gorilla, it's seductive.
Yeah.
It pulls us in.
I noticed early on your use of the word artist versus actor. I'm curious if you would talk about that.
I think the artist is someone who feels called to express oneself, right? And then there is artistic crafts. Right? There's the craft of singing, the craft of painting, and acting is another craft.
Yeah.
Right. I am a little bit more interested in the artist, even though I'm most well known as an acting teacher and coach.
Yeah.
Because I find that if you work on the reintegration and the authentication of the artist, that the craft comes in tow. And sometimes it's difficult to have or elevate the artist through the craft alone.
Yeah.
Right. And that's why I do so much personal work and life work about let's get you self-actualized, because your craft will come. It will follow.
Man. Yeah. And as luck would have it, you know this because we've worked together one-on-one, I've gone through a lot of like shedding of things I was gripping to.
Yeah.
I was in a relationship that blew up and shut away. I left my corporate role earlier this year, and I remember you like acknowledging we've been through a lot, and it's interesting. The reason I bring up the actor versus artist thing is one of the things I think is very true for my experience working with you the last 3 years is I remember you sitting across from me like in one of our sessions, and you were like, I was so clung on to making sense of my business executive identity. And I think maybe it's the MBA or brand strategy brain in me that's like, it all needs to make sense. And in us talking about your work and my experiences in the class, it's like that what we're getting at is so much deeper than that. And it's just interesting. Yes, it's affected me as an actor, but it 100% has had an impact on how I'm showing up in my life. Like, I think it's led to me being able to sit here and host a podcast today.
For sure.
Because it became a lot less about what the thing is externally. And it's funny, as I sit here having this conversation with you, it also brings into view the interviews I've had so far on this podcast, because I've been really in a contemplative place of, I'm talking to people that have given up some idea of what they should be. And it's not about leaving corporate America, as I might want it to be. It's something much deeper that people are just like reconnecting to or allowing again. And in that, I love the shift from actor to artist, because it goes so much wider for people.
Yeah, like I can technique the shit out of an actor.
Yeah.
But at the end of the day, I'm not offering them the artistic tools that will help them evolve.
Yeah.
Right? It's best if I ask questions, trying to spark something intuitive or impulsive or instinctive from them to come to the surface. One of my favorite things is obviously to be like, did you have an impulse there you didn't follow?
Yeah.
Right? Because I felt it, and then I saw the wall.
Yeah.
But you're not going to be able to address that impulse through the craft of acting.
Right.
Because that impulse stop was something that's happened in your life. Right, so you can't separate the two. So if you're to become more animalistic, more instinctive, more intuitive, then we have to know what's going on in your life that's causing that block, because it's going to show up in every scene that you do.
Yeah.
Right, and if we can heighten your awareness and you can find some acceptance or permission around that block, then it'll shift your life, and your art, your acting craft will follow.
What was I going to say to that? In studying technique over the years, I love what you just said about like I can technique it all day, because I would treat it like homework and like write autobiography and do all this work, which got me somewhere. But in my experiences in your theater, there's something that I almost can't make sense of intellectually happening in the
Good.
And the obvious perhaps theme that comes up to me is it's a big letting go of control.
Yeah.
Or letting go of, I need to be prepared so that I'll say it this way, like I'm aware of my addiction to like getting a gold star. And I quickly learned being in your classes that you're not going to tell us if it was good or bad.
I can't.
Yeah.
Like it's an impossible feat.
Yeah.
Right. And it's art. And so it is subjective by nature.
Yeah.
And so even if I'm in there and I'm loving it, it might be because it's hitting something that's very relatable or historic for me.
Right.
That doesn't shift the value of it for the other 10 people who think this is boring.
Yeah.
Right. And so I can't tell you if it's good or bad.
Yeah.
But where I can begin to direct you is, was it honest?
Yeah.
Meaning, were you affected by it?
Yeah.
Because if there's a truth in it, you will be affected and we will be affected. And to me, that's the value of that is greater than someone who's just performing and mimicking the expression of truth rather than feeling the truth, right? And so I can always, if I wanted to, direct a scene to be entertaining, to be engaging, to be challenging, to elicit a reaction from you. But there's not going to be the same truth as you finding it and having an awareness around what within you is being exposed, right?
I think my definition for what we do as actors has evolved to just feeling things in front of people. Do you agree with that?
It's a big part of it. Yeah.
Yeah.
With some intention.
Do you have it? Yeah. Do you have a definition
of
what an actor's job is?
Oh my God! I knew you were going to act this. I was.
You can say
well because like I don't know if I want to define it.
Yeah.
I feel like it is an emotional expression of your personal interpretation of text, right? And so all you can pull on is your own emotional life.
Yeah.
And to what degree you're willing to be honest with that is, to me, the value of your interpretation.
Yep. As I was like reflecting on some of the experiences I've had in your class, like everything from being a gorilla to acting out a scene from Waiting for Lefty as a Smurf.
Oh, that's right. Yeah.
To taking a meditative journey about my own death. At face value, especially the first examples, it's like, what? Like, what sense does that make? But in my experience looking back on it, like, there's always some deeper sense I get from my own experience and what's available inside of me. And it's become, I will say, like, by and large in my life, holistically, the big shift has been looking to my own curiosity and felt sense of truth versus anything externally telling me what I should think.
Right.
Is it?
Yeah. Again, it's that glass projection of ourselves that we hold up, right? And this is identity. This is how I want you to see me. This is who I am. Whether you believe it or not,
Yeah.
right? Often it's elements along the way that have served as protection, right? And so if you're not under the same threat, why are you holding up the same protection? And that's why it can become so limiting when you're trying to grow. You're still holding up this old identity.
Yeah.
That's part of the mechanism of like being a Smurf or being a gorilla. It's not within your identity, right? So Catherine's identity can't play a gorilla. You have to put the identity down
For that to be possible.
100%, which then engages hopefully something more authentic that's coming from the same place that when you used to play as a child, right? Like when a child is playing in a playground, they are free and they are present, but they're also lost in some kingdom or with some monster or in space, wherever they might be. The minute there is a sound or something that causes an element of threat, you see them freeze.
Yeah.
And the game stops, right? Because it has to become fight or flight or fawn or whatever it is. And I think every time we freeze, there is a little synaptic, that's like, okay, with that threat, this is the possible escape. This is the possible protection, whether it's hiding, running, turning to someone else to protect you. And that becomes more and more intricate the older we get, especially when we leave home and we don't have the protection of home or our parents or anything like that. And all we can do is look socially. And so what is most socially acceptable? What is most socially appeasing? What is most socially desirable? What is most, what's that going to be? Is it based upon the college you're going to? Is it based upon the peer friends? And a lot of it is everybody looking at each other, trying to be like, oh, no, you're cool. Oh, no, I like you. And it's like, yeah, but do you really know them? Just because you have the same social rituals, and most of everyone's doing those social rituals to be this sense of community, sense of tribe. And so it builds and builds and builds. And then at some point you're holding this thing up and you're like, this isn't me. Who am I?
Yeah.
What am I doing? And I think, I'm not saying this is with you and your corporate job, but a lot of people do come to me who are looking to escape this life that they've built around an identity that is just protection. And so, we have to shatter it.
Through the last 3 years of being a student of your classes, I noticed like this real juxtaposition of when I can't come into a theater, I'm not acting. And when I'm in my life, I am acting. And I wonder why you think that is.
You've been perfecting the role of Catherine a lot longer than playing roles you haven't been living.
Interesting.
Right. And so there is, you have your bells and whistles, you have your distractions, you have, the character well.
Yeah.
Right. And so it can be, for a lot of people, more exposing when you start them playing another character and you don't have the same identity to hide behind. And so you feel more exposed.
Is that a lesson you learned along the way?
Still learning.
We just finished an 8-week class called Death.
Yes.
Which was a meditation on our own mortality and death and all of that attachment.
Yep.
And I'm specifically thinking about how we ended it, which was we took like 4 classes for everyone to take turns telling their life story. And I remember the similar resistance came up when we first started. I was like, how long is this going to take? Like, whoa. And though, even by the time the first person had gone, I was sitting next to my dear friend who was doing it. And I was like, oh my God, everyone needs to do this right now.
Yeah.
Any preconception I might have had about someone, by the way, who I've known pretty well for the last year and a half, I just learned 8,000% more about her and why she is the way she is than I ever would have in a lifetime. And it made me want to go do it with my immediate family, who I've known for 34 years. It was so profound.
Yeah.
I could have done, and I don't know, I contrast that with like what you just said about looking around socially, and even in a vulnerable pursuit of me, like building something new like this, I'm constantly like catching myself being like, oh, well, I can do it this way, but not this way. And this is appropriate and this isn't. And to contrast that with, well, I should just say about this, like we learn about each other in like 15-second clips today.
Right.
To contrast it with that exercise,
Yeah.
My true like feeling was like, everyone needs to do this right now.
I love the physiological effects of it, which is as that class is progressing and we're slowly pulling back or shattering different elements of self and letting go of attachments and putting them down. By the time you get to telling the story, and the story is basically just tell us your life story at turning points, moments that you had or you experienced that shaped you or changed you. And as people are telling the story, you can hear different voices. You can see bodies shift, shoulders drop, people's faces soften or change, and you suddenly see this allowing of self without the protection changes their little physical self, their voice, and everything else. And to me, that's like I'm so in awe when I see that happen.
How do you have the capacity for it? Meaning, I see you holding space for probably like 100 people on a weekly basis. How do you do it, like in terms of your own what's the word, physiology?
I guess there's a bunch of things going on. One is trial and error, learning how to allow flow.
Yeah.
I think early on I was often overwhelmed, and out of that would grow my own hiding habits or resentment outward. And so not allowing things to stick. And so part of that is allowing the experience of, and then the second habit is like, I think part of, like I said, the history of me in becoming different selves, depending on where I was living, an immense or an intense curiosity.
Yeah.
And so not allowing other people's journeys and the emotional traumas and ups and downs of it to stick, allow it to flow through me, and to then have a curiosity about the artist, and can I perceive changes, and given what I've been doing for the past 20 years, create a pattern or something that connects the physical change I'm seeing or hearing with this journey that they're sharing with me. So it's just like, again, I'm engaged in a way that a great deal of gratitude and humility for being able to share the space rather than, maybe that's what it is. I just feel like I'm sharing the space rather than holding the space.
Right. And I like what you said earlier. You don't like to talk about it that much, so it's not like we're sitting there and you're lecturing. It's like you're holding this container.
Yeah.
And you're holding it, and you're also evolving in it with us.
Yeah. Like, there's a part of me that wishes children never go to school. That they are out living in the wild, socializing in the wild. And if anything, that there's apprenticeship teaching, that you learn crafts and tools and professions from doing rather than, because the pulling up into the mind and the duality and the hierarchy and the evaluation process that we're training our brains, we're programming this biological, sensorial, sentient, connective thing into something that is suddenly more like a computer and not as grounded and connected to the natural world.
Yeah.
And I don't want to do that. Like, it's counterintuitive to where I'm trying to get you guys to go, which is I want the animal reacting, feeling, expressing, uninhibited from any mental constructs.
Yeah.
And so the more I talk, the more, you go up there, and that's that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think you said one day, like, I don't know what it was, but it was like, if you want to like be less in your ego, stop talking.
Full story.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm curious to ask you, all of this is true, and you work with a lot of people that are pursuing careers in an industry that is
Transforming.
yeah, okay, we can go with that.
Yeah.
But I'm curious, my observation, and tell me what your feelings are on this, is that you work with the artist in this container, and there's like a felt inappropriate boundary with them then having the agency and accountability to like go create their careers.
Yes.
Is that fair?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah. If I am assisting, aiding, guiding,
Yeah.
someone to a more authentic version that's more fully integrated, there's a deeper truth with themselves. And that might mean that there is a course adjustment from this dream that they've had of attaining.
Yeah.
But they'll find greater value in whatever creative direction they just, like this in itself, like this kind of, you've done it before, but I feel like there's a deeper passion linked to your passion in doing it now
100%.
than there was before.
Yeah.
And so
go ahead.
it's not directly acting,
Right.
but it's fulfilling that artistic sense within you.
Yeah.
And so like if I can be of service in that way, like I don't like the going after a destination. I much prefer to help an artist go after what version of themselves could be doing that. And I want them to look at that and be like, okay, well, now that we know the version of you that could be doing that, is that a version that still has the same passion as the destination? And if it doesn't, then let's figure out what other destinations could this version of you be, and head towards, a version of you that has greater confidence, greater gratitude, greater connection, maybe in capacity for greater creativity because they're uninhibited by this. If this is how I see myself and this is what I'm going to be doing.
Right.
It's such a narrow thing, of course.
Yeah.
And also like it the version of you now that wants that cannot have that.
Right.
Right? It's a different version of you. And so you have to begin to inhabit that version of yourself. And often it's based upon a belief system, which then is the operating system for your choices. What your daily rituals are, what your patterns of behavior are, what your circle of network of friends and associates are. And it's going to be different than you are now. And that's why you're here and that's there. And this is the multiverse. Right? So that.
Say more.
At the same time I am here, there is a 1,000 different versions, a million, infinite versions of me.
Right.
And I believe that, with the quantum computers that are now beginning to do these quantum computations, and all physicists and mathematicians and everyone saying this is an impossibility given our reality, that it must be pulling on other quantum computers or other realities and pulling it into this one, other universes. And so I guess the question will be for them at some point, then what's the connection between these other universes and how would you be able to slip from one to the other? Given my process of learning self and adapting and evolving and becoming different versions of myself, I really do feel like it's energetically through emotion. And so that there might be a version of me that has greater gratitude, and through that greater gratitude has greater permission for certain aspects in their course that I don't yet, because I don't have the same gratitude for those things because I feel like I haven't attained them yet. And so if I can allow my emotional self to start feeling gratitude,
Right.
and offering it through ritual or some form of action or behavior, then I'm slipping out of this course into the course of that other
I feel like this is a way to understand manifestation.
100%.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because I get it on the level of, like, you had me journal on a day in my life a year from now, and you were like, it's actually not about the specifics of what you're doing. But I remember I was like, I have my podcast again, and I'm interviewing Jamie Lee Curtis, which unironically, from Everything Ever All at Once, that's like my best grasp on the multiverse concept. And I get it. I get it that like all those parts of us, this is my sense of it, like all of those versions of us are coexist at the same time or something. And watching that film, which was like a psychedelic trip, I get that like all of those parts of her existed. Anyway, back to my journaling. I was like, yeah, Jamie Lee Curtis is coming over for an interview. And it was more so about how I felt flowing through that day. And what's really cool about it, at the time I was doing that journaling, I was living like a really intense corporate life. Right. And I like envisioned not commuting an hour and a half across LA to sit in an office on my computer all day. And a year or so later, some of that has come true. Yep. My life is shifting. And it's interesting just to think a year and a half ago, I was sitting in, God, what would that feel like to live that way? And it's funny, as I do that type of work, every time I envision the future, I'm like, it's actually more simple and there's less stuff happening, which is interesting to notice, because I usually feel gripped to like, oh, and I need to do all, that's like some idea that I need to do more and accomplish more. But like
it's often less.
Yeah, real contentment for me continues to become less and less and less. Yeah.
Yeah, it's being humble to the idea that you're not in control, and not just that you're not in control, that the universe plays a bigger part in manifestation or becoming.
Yeah.
And so the initial inception of I want, I desire is kind of our job.
Yeah.
And then part of our responsibility is then to let go immediately. So whatever energy that was that we created, the universe can then allow it to, but our natural instinct is fucking grab that. Like, I want to show bird. And in that, nothing's going to travel away, right? And so people are always like, I try so hard, I do all of this, and I do all of this. And it's like, yeah, but you're not letting the universe have its natural flow, and so it can't come to you, right? Let go of this thing and let it flow. In the meantime, see if there are elements where you can have joy or passion or curiosity around it.
Yeah.
Right? So that's in your life, but don't put such a, it has to look like this, I need to be on this, I need to be making this, no.
Yeah.
Let that go.
It's funny. It's making me think I just had lunch with a girl that's working with me that's about 10 years younger than me, like within 2 years out of college.
Right.
And she was like, her degree was in documentary filmmaking, and she's doing video editing for this podcast, and that's the work she does. And she was so funny. She was like, I wonder, like, am I going to be 50 and doing this? And it brought me back to being that age. And I was a collegiate field hockey coach. And like, is this? There was just this like, is this it? Like, this is it. And I looked earlier, I was like, girl, it is so not what you're going to be doing at 50.
Yeah, probably even 5 years from now.
Right.
Yeah.
And it's so, to what you just said, it's the most annoying lesson to keep learning and learning and learning, that I can't control my way there.
Right. And that's, like I said, like for me, part of the art of acting, less so the craft, is that the trusting of impulse.
Yeah.
Right? That it's not really a tool to implement. It's a way of living life. And so even if, like, you can't be like, hey, I'm going to suddenly allow all my impulses in a scene. If you're not living that way.
Yeah.
It's just not possible.
Right. Which is why it goes back to like, the artist leads to the actor.
100%.
But the artist is who you are in your life.
Yeah. And it's, if you can offer yourself the permission to start allowing impulse more in your life, it won't then even be a mental construct of something you're trying to do in the scene. It will naturally begin to happen.
And I think it's funny to think back on, like, as I said at the beginning, I felt like I started to experience like the truth of the moment in a theater, and like the Meisner exercise of like blue shirt, sad, happy.
Yeah.
I was like, it felt so good. Like it was like a drug to be like, and I think it's because it allowed me to be in the place of not knowing what the next moment was going to be.
Yeah, it's like short wiring the brain.
Yeah. Yeah, totally. Similarly, I went to a Groundlings workshop recently, and being an improv, it freaked me out because same thing. I don't, oh my God, it's coming on. I don't know what I'm going to say. And then I'm going to say it.
Right.
But a lot of vitality comes through with that experience.
Yeah. Yeah, I love to watch kids, like, my own kids.
Yeah.
They're just so beautifully in the moment, improvising, just without consideration, without censorship. And because of that, they can pull on things that they haven't even experienced with such a naturalness.
Yeah.
And I begin to see it just watching them play it.
With that, I'm curious, like, to pull it out for anyone that's listening that's like, I'm not an actor, I'm not an artist.
Yeah.
And it's a way of life.
Yeah.
And what do you think becomes possible for the individual to try that on? And then I wonder what you think becomes possible for like a collective beyond the individual, like living more instinctually and truthfully.
100%. Like, I guess like a civil creed that we have is this: as an adult, you don't play unless it is a sport.
Right.
And to me, that's such a loss, not just personally, but as a civilization, that the silliness, the goofiness, the humility that comes with play, shatters identity. Right? Like, I love when an actor says to me, "Oh, I feel so silly," and I'm like, "Great."
Yeah.
Right? Because you've lost the censorship of it. You might have a judgment and a criticism after the fact, but in the moment, you're allowing your unconscious to take over. And I don't see where it couldn't benefit any part of society if we were all able to engage in a state of play.
One thing I wanted to bring back up that I learned from you and thought it was really interesting is we bring it back to like the career of it all and success. I remember you sharing with me that your vision for your work in your life has expanded to a 20-year view.
Yes.
Can you speak to that a little bit?
Well, part of that's just life expectancy, right? So like, you have to look at like, oh, right. I have a decent gauge of the duration it takes for certain artistic endeavors to transpire,
right,
to come to fruition. And especially to the depth of which I want to work on them, what I want to imbue them of philosophies, truths, personal stories, what I see around the world. I'm pulling together the type of artist with whom I believe can bring it authentically, into reality. And then there's also, the teaching and the coaching and how I want to have the ability to reach more people beyond the resources of just, a studio here in LA. And so you begin to look at time.
Yep.
I'm in my 50s, and
freshly
I've just been birthed into my 50s. And so I can begin to say, okay, well, if this is going to take 4 years, and not solely only working on this one project, but I could see this taking 4 years to come together with all the different moving parts, all the different people I would like to involve, then I don't have that many endeavors so the value of them has increased, but there's no grip on them.
Right.
Like I can push this one a little bit, I can get lost in this one a little bit. And again, that that initial momentum, recognizing that, okay, well, I'll do this part because I feel inspired and engaged here. I feel challenged too. I like when I come up against the challenge. I'm like, okay, well then I want to push this challenge for myself a little bit. And then you begin to see that if you've got 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 different things that you've put momentum behind, the universe begins to shine a light on the ones where they align with those other parts that make them happen.
Yeah.
And so it might not be in the order in which you see or wanted, but you begin to see like, oh, I'm now part of something rather than this is mine.
Yeah.
Right. And
it's so opposing to what we conventionally think
100%.
Pursuing a career or even having a meaningful contribution looks like, or the pace at what I mean. I was very attached, like, if I'm not Forbes 30 under 30, and then I was like, oh fuck, I'm 30. I better be 40. It's like, what's that about?
And what's that measure?
Yeah.
Like, how many people read Forbes and are you hanging out with them all? Like,
no, I'm
right?
not.
Like, yeah.
Yeah.
Look, my compass is become more and more as I age, a sense of gratitude. Where do I feel most connected and feel humbled and feel a sense of gratitude for the chance in sharing, partaking in. And it has offered me a lot more than my brain ever imagined, because my brain was such a narrow vision of what I could do rather than who I could become.
The big thing I think I'm taking from this conversation that's like a new learning for me is like the truth of who you are is under the shattered identity.
Sure.
What do you think truth feels like?
Well, I think everybody knows that.
For themselves.
Yeah, I think it's inherent. I think the creation of us is a truth in itself.
Yeah.
Right. It's again, there are so many in the design of our brain and civilization and everything along the way. We get further and further, I feel, from this natural animal that we were.
Yeah.
And so the closer to the natural world we are, the more truth that we have.
Because it feels like we're especially living in a moment where like collective truth is under attack.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
And to me, it's a lot of fear.
Yeah.
Right. There's an awful lot of self-created threat.
Yeah.
But also manufactured threat. In the idea of protection. And it's holding back our evolution. It's holding back the resources that we need. It's holding back a general sense of who we are as a civilization and who we are as a race. Like we're right now trying to create an artificial version of ourselves.
Yeah.
Well, of course it's gonna. If it's an evolution of us, then we will become not needed.
You said the industry's in transformation. I mean, all industries are in transformation. Yep. What keeps you grounded, and what do you offer to artists to stay grounded in the uncertainty and the fear?
Well, it takes certain truths, right? Like it's not going to be stopped.
Yeah.
Right. We have to adapt or die. So how can you work with, how can you act with, how can you incorporate or integrate, AI? How can you think of it as something like working with another actor or another artist? The resistance of it is just going to cause pain,
Yeah.
Looking to the younger generations and recognizing that the technology is a lot more inherent to them. And so their adaptability and their ingenuity will be ahead of those who we didn't grow up with the same technology. And so turning to them to be like, oh, I want to learn what this younger generation knows.
Right.
I think industry-wise, I like it because it's going to fragment and fracture the studio system that we have right now that I feel has had a stranglehold on the artistry for a long time. And they're not going to be able to stop some 14-year-old in Iowa from making a film that maybe 10, 20 million people fall in love with. And they're not going to be able to license their way around it. They're not going to legalese that. And so what are they going to have to do? They will try to absorb. And you see that right now where the big studios are trying to go out and grab YouTubers, TikTokers, and buy their project, lock them up into licensing agreements to, grab a hold of it. But it's too prevalent. There's too much out there. There's too many great imaginative kids that are going to make amazing things. And there's no fear in them around it. We have fear because we feel like it's going to wipe our existence or our value away. I also think it's going to push us back to live performance. And you see that with like A24 buying the Cherry Lane Theater in New York. And I know a couple of other production companies that are eyeing other big theaters in New York, and there's one or two in Chicago. And so there will be that this is the new medium. And then for our generation, a little bit younger, there'll be that, I want that physical sense again.
Yeah.
And so I think there will be a renaissance of theater. And I think the value of it will come back to what it used to be.
Yeah.
It was really highly regarded and built our sense of community and brought us back more to that animalistic tribe that we once were.
I love that.
Yeah.
All right, some fun quick ones. What would your 8-year-old self say to you today?
Well, in an immediate sense, it would say go get candy, right? Because I do have the ability to do that. I think it would also say stop talking so much.
That's funny. What would your 80-year-old self say?
It was worth it.
Yeah. What's a practice or ritual that keeps you you?
I do a gratitude ritual every morning, giving a sense of gratitude for not just who people are, but having gratitude for where they are in their own development and, wishing positive things for them. Yeah, a sense of, it's gratitude every morning humbles me to a place of where, like, I think my identity's pulled down by it. Yeah.
All right, last one. Fill this out. I used to think blank, and now I know blank.
I used to think effort was everything. And now I believe acceptance has a lot more effect than effort.
All right, the last one just for fun. What's true about the season of life you're in right now?
It's two parts. I feel a new degree of humbling coming upon me, which is deepening my sense of gratitude for, those in my life, my children, my wife, and also engaging with a part of me that now feels a lot more is possible because it's not all on my own shoulders. Yeah.
Beautiful. Humble way to end it. Thank you for doing this.
This was great.
And thank you for doing what you do.
Thank you.
It's probably most of the reason I still live in LA. So sorry, Mom and Dad.
I'm sorry too. I am happy. I am proud. I'm in awe of what you've done over the past year.
Thank you.
The courage it's taken to step away from something that seems, secure.
Yeah.
It seems logical. But admitting that it wasn't true to you.
Yeah.
Right. And so bravo.
Thank you.